Welcome to the SBCA podcast, Component Connection, where we explore the people, ideas, trends, and innovations shaping the structural framing industry. Regardless of how you touch this industry, we're glad you're here. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, this is Ashley Baker, the Director of Education for SBCA, and I will be your host for this episode of Component Connection. I'm joined by Shawnee Roy, who is with TrussWorks Operations, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Women in Construction event at BCMC. Shawnee, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me and welcome here.
We are excited you're here. So give us a little bit of background. You're working for TrussWorks Operations, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, I am the Operations Education Manager. I am heavily involved in all departments within the company. I am helping optimize all of our processes and other areas where we can use growth and getting ahead of any potential growing pains as we continue to grow.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about this event we're going to have, right? So Women in Construction at BCMC, which has been happening for several years. It was my first opportunity to sit in on this event last year at my very first BCMC, and I was pretty blown away by everybody in the room. I think it was standing room only. This year we're going to dive into kind of a different approach maybe than what we've looked at in prior years. So in your opinion, I'm curious, why do you think this Women in Construction panel that we put together this year, which by the way, includes, of course, Shawnee Roy, Abby Yoder, and Kim Tenclay. So we've got some people here with some diverse backgrounds and in various roles. What makes this particular panel this year so timely and important?
I mean, it's huge. We've got like you said, a great panel with a lot of different backgrounds, where we all started, where we all come from, and really looking at all of us who have worked so well with diverse backgrounds and not your stereotypical work environments. So I think that we're going to be able to deep dive into multiple different avenues that a lot of people may not be thinking about. And so I want it to be clear that it's not just for women. We want everybody to be in attendance, and we want everybody to be able to take something away. And whether it's something or a connection to one of us, that is a contact or a reference point if they do face a potential candidate that we're having their facilities or their companies.
Well, that's a great point. The big push here, kind of like I mentioned, I was pretty blown away last year to see how many people were in the room. I mean, again, it was standing room only. There were a ton of men in the room. So emphasizing that point that, again, this is not just for women. I think there are some huge takeaways. Not that we'll talk like solutions specifically, obviously, but, there are some ideas I think that this particular panel is going to share based on background and just general experience, which of course is very broad, that will be really helpful for anybody and everybody to hear.
Yeah. And I mean, specifically looking at the quote unquote labor shortage that everybody is constantly talking about within the industry. And it's really looking at, is that really a shortage? Or maybe is there a bigger picture that maybe we're missing just because we're so used to the way things have always been?
Right. It's such a good segue too. There's this other half of the workforce, or whatever that figure is, that maybe is kind of untapped, right? And so there's this potential group of individuals that maybe just need things to look or be a little bit different in order to get them involved and fill some of these gaps. And there's a lot of ways to get there. So your story and background that you're going to share is part of that, right?
Yeah, definitely is a start. We'll do a deep dive into the path I've taken, where I started over 10 years of growth and mentors and different avenues, different departments within the industry, and all the challenges that I've faced, the stereotypical challenges and the physical challenges, emotional challenges. We'll do a deep dive into all of those so that we can really paint a good picture of what people like myself or even others could be within our industry.
Yeah, that's a great point. Themes of the panel is that visibility and inspiration. So have you had, and this will kind of be a little teaser, right? Have you had moments, where you saw another woman in a leadership role who maybe encouraged you to step forward? Or if we look at this differently, right? How do women contributing to the workforce, how are those maybe some solutions to some of the challenges that individuals are facing?
Yeah. So in the beginning, there weren't as many. In the very beginning, 10 years ago, you didn't see a lot. And that we talked 10 years, but that's really not that much, right?
Right.
But as the times have gone on and I've grown and seen different plants and seeing different opportunities and been in different rooms with multiple different people, it's grown. And each time it's just encouraged me to want to do more and want to learn more. And I think the ability, or looking at where we are today and looking at the rooms we have now, even within the SBCA, the OQMs, BCMC, you see so many more women than you did back when I first started. And that's so encouraging. And I'm hoping that seeing people like us on the panel and people seeing myself and seeing others, it encourages others to join in and follow the same path that maybe not the same, but a similar path like we've all taken.
Right. And in part of the planning, one of the things that struck me in the conversation that Abby, Kim, you and I had is really, when you look at some of the challenges that we face in the workforce or with workforce and labor shortages and so on and so forth, it's sometimes I think we look at it like we're just filling gaps, which isn't necessarily true, right? That's not the end goal. There are these opportunities to bring individuals who have new or different strengths or perspectives to the table. And how does that benefit then, say, a CM, for example?
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much, but I think we'll definitely be diving into, the ability to multitask and the organizational skills that potentially support and bring that are strong, maybe a little bit stronger than men do. And nothing to discredit men. There are just some things that there's just organizationally wise, some things that maybe women could be beneficial within a company in multiple different areas, whether that's design, whether that's in production, whether that's a management role. I think that there's just a lot of differences that maybe need to be talked about or maybe need to be thought of.
But that's such an important point. It's not the whole point with this event, right? Is not to divide any further or separate or anything like that, right? It's not women in construction event, and we only want women, and we're going to highlight all these amazing things women do and discredit, another subset of the population. Like that's not the goal, right? It's
no.
How
do we work together?
Yeah. And everybody has different strengths and perspectives. And that's, of course, what makes us unique as people, but also adds value to your organization. So whether it's a woman or a man or whoever it is, bringing in some of these different perspectives or, the ability to do X, Y, and Z that differs from so-and-so, that just makes you stronger as a company.
That, and put on some avenues of talking even deeper and going into bringing how can women attract even younger generations and bringing in the right people to having those right people to market for you, right? When you are looking at candidates and you are looking at people you want to tap into the different areas, right? Whether it's new generation, women, men, older generation, millennials, however you want to talk about it. What are some of those tools that you can use to better yourself when marketing your company to those areas?
Absolutely. The point I think that's important to emphasize that we'll get deep into, of course, as a panel in the event is, this idea that there are a lot of individuals, leaders, what have you out there who don't necessarily realize that there are some programs and things that exist that are already pulling women or other people who wouldn't otherwise maybe fall into these certain tracks, in engineering or architecture, those kinds of things. They're already pulling those individuals into those programs, CTE programs in schools and so on, that we can then tap into, right? So to also pull into our workforce, our companies, and so on. So I know you'll shed some light on that for us. You've got a lot going there with some connections on what you're working on, especially as it relates to culture and, retention too, and just generally building careers in the construction industry.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting and very informative.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of wrap us up here with one question. If you had one message to leave with industry leaders about why this conversation matters, what would it be?
It's the future. We have more strong women and women wanting to maybe not prove their worth, but showcase what they can do, and they have a lot of value to bring to the table and want to bring that value to the table. And if it's one thing, I would say that it's just take away one thing to try, right? You're going to be given a lot of details and a lot of information from 3 amazing women and 4 with you. And we're going to really deep dive, and it's just take one thing from anything that we said and put it into use at your client, and I think you will be successful in the long run, honestly, without giving too much away.
Yeah, that's such a great answer. It's like you've done this before, Shawnee.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but it's going to be exciting, and I think that it's worth everybody showing up. I would love to see a packed room again, if not even more packed than we did last year.
Yeah. Well, I think that you guys are so great about making it so conversational and engaging that, there is so much to glean insight-wise, and you've got this expertise that you can really add to the conversation. And truly, like the 3 women who were on this panel, and I'm going to get to pick your brain in front of everybody and, really dive in. You guys are an exceptional group, and I'm excited to get to sit down and have this conversation with you. And then hopefully you guys will impart some wisdom on the folks in the room. And like you said, they can take back something that they can implement right away. And I know that's going to happen for sure. So
I agree. I'm excited.
Well, yes, we're looking forward to it. If you are curious about when this event takes place, I've got all those answers for you now. We are going to be featuring the Women in Construction event, which will include coffee and a light bite on Wednesday morning, October 1st, beginning at 7 a.m. We will officially kick off with the panel at 7:30, but as I mentioned, come enjoy a cup of joe and find your seat for this exceptional event. Thank you, Shawnee, for joining us today. Thank you out there for listening to SBCA's podcast, Component Connection. If you enjoyed this episode and found it valuable, please like it and share it with others. Stay up to date and in the know by subscribing to Component Connection on whatever podcast platform you use most.
Thanks for listening to Component Connection, brought to you by SBCA. If there's a topic you'd like us to explore in a future episode, email us at podcast@sbcacomponents.com.